emissions
are definitely bad for the environment. For some reason, when we talk about cars and trucks, the exhaust that comes out is referred to emissions. Okay? Currently in North America and many other countries in the world, we're trying to reduce our emissions. They're trying to create cars that have less harmful emissions that come out of the exhaust pipe. So basically, when you have a gas engine or a diesel engine, it creates pollution. Okay? So the less emissions that come out, the more we can reduce the emissions, the less we can pollute the environment. Another thing that has a harmful effect or something that is bad for the environment is deforestation. So when you have a forest and when you cut the trees down for lumber or for firewood, eventually it looks like this, and we call this deforestation. In Canada, we have a lot of deforestation, but I'll talk a little bit later about how we try to make sure we replace trees as we cut them down. But Canada is definitely a country that is guilty of cutting down many trees. There are a lot of other countries in the world that do this. Canada has a lot of trees, and so we do cut down a lot of trees in order to make lumber. That's the wood that you use to build houses. And we do cut down a lot of trees still, sometimes for firewood. Some people do use wood as firewood as well. So definitely deforestation is one of the things that is bad for the environment. We have global warming, which we could also refer to as climate change. So scientists have been making note of the fact that the average temperature around the globe, the average temperature on Earth seems to be rising. In the last 20 or 30 years, it's gotten a lot worse. And global warming has a lot of bad effects on the planet. It changes weather patterns. It causes things like icebergs to melt. So global warming is a problem that needs to be dealt with. And climate change is probably a newer term for it, because not only is the planet getting warmer, but there's other things that are happening to the weather and to the climate. There are more heavy rainstorms. There are more extreme weather events. I'll talk a bit more later. But we do use the term global warming and the term climate change almost interchangeably when we're talking about how the environment is changing. Okay? So you'll notice people will go to a summit, and the summit will be about climate change. So that will be a term you'll see in the news from time to time. Okay. One of the reasons why there is pollution is because we burn fossil fuels. So fossil fuels are fuels that are created deep in the earth. Oil is probably the best example of a fossil fuel. We drill for oil. We take oil out of the ground. We refine oil into things like gas or diesel. If you're learning British English, it would be petrol. But fossil fuels, when you burn them, create heat, and they create emissions. And so fossil fuels, once turned into gas or diesel fuel, we burn them in our cars and trucks in order to drive around. And in doing so, we create pollution, which has effects on the environment. It's probably one of the biggest things that human beings do in terms of affecting the environment. So greenhouse gases are gases that we release into the atmosphere that are bad for the environment. Greenhouse gases, I don't know all of them, but it's carbon dioxide is one of the gases. I think methane and nitrous oxide, maybe even ozone. I think carbon dioxide is the biggest greenhouse gas. And what greenhouse gases do is they let the sunlight through, but they reflect heat or infrared heat back to the earth. I think I'm not a scientist, so don't quote me on this. But the greenhouse gases form a blanket in the sky around the earth that helps keep the earth warm. The problem is, as we put more greenhouse gases into the atmosphere, we're starting to keep the planet too warm. The blankets get a little bit too big because of our pollution. So again,
So again,
some pretty big words in there. Greenhouse gases come from cars and factories.
Comes
and
from
they are
gas
gases
and
like
house
carbon dioxide,
and
methane. Those are the two biggest, I think. I'm having trouble remembering my science class from when I was a kid.
Remembering science class
the ozone layer,
the ozone layer
is a little bit different. It's a layer of what's called ozone, and it actually stops certain ultraviolet light from getting to the planet. So it's a little bit different than the greenhouse gases. But those two things together make up our atmosphere. The atmosphere is all the air around the Earth. And in order for humans to survive on this planet, the atmosphere needs to stay relatively the same. Certain nitrogen and carbon dioxide. And if we mess it up through pollution, it could have dangerous effect on us. Hazardous waste. So we have toxic waste, we have hazardous waste. We have industrial waste. This is any kind of waste that's produced by a factory or in manufacturing. Okay? So that's a big difference. Let's see. American English for this guy. In Maine, most bottles and cans can be redeemed for 5 cents. Very cool. Milk jugs cannot be returned for any money. That's why we put it in bags here in Canada. So you can recycle the bag. Anyways, let me get back. There are many kinds of waste produced by factories. So again, hazardous waste, industrial waste, toxic waste. We even have nuclear waste from nuclear power plants. And all of this needs to be disposed of properly. If you just dump hazardous waste into a river or lake or stream, hazardous waste into river, stream is bad for the environment. So that's one of the things that most countries are trying to get under control, to reduce the amount of hazardous waste and other types of waste that go into the environment. We also have household waste. Let me zoom in so you can see all this household waste. Household waste is anything generated by people in their homes. Okay? In their home. In our house, because I have yes, I'm married, and Jen and I have 5 children. Only 4 are home right now. One's at university. We generate quite a bit of household waste. We try not to. We try to produce as little household waste as possible. But household waste is also bad for the environment. If it's disposed of improperly. It would also just be called garbage or trash. The formal term would be household waste. Here's some effects that humans have on the environment. These are some of the things. I'm just going to talk a little bit about how pollution and emissions affect the environment around us. One of the things that it does is it creates endangered species, or it creates a situation where certain animals and sometimes plants are in danger of becoming extinct. And I'll talk about extinct in a sec. This is the bobolink. It's a type of bird in Ontario, Canada. And it is an endangered species. There are not a lot of bobolinks left. We have been destroying its natural habitat. We have been creating cities and farms, and we have been destroying where the bobolink. I picked the bobolink because one, it's an endangered species, and also starts with the word bobolink. Anyway, so it's not extinct. There are still bobolink birds in Ontario, but it's on the endangered species list because there's a danger that it might become extinct. This is the eastern elk. The eastern elk is actually extinct in North America. It was a type of animal that was common, but because humans came and destroyed the environment where these elk lived, they no longer exist. We probably also hunted them a long time ago, and I'm sure that had an enormous effect as well. But when you have an endangered species, it means it's in danger of going extinct. It might go extinct. And if an animal or plant is extinct, it just doesn't exist on our planet anymore. It's kind of sad. When I was researching this lesson, I was sad to see how many species were extinct in Canada. It was a lot. I think it was in the hundreds, a few hundred species, like 200 or 300. Don't quote me on that. Again, I'm not a scientist, but we have an enormous effect on the environment, and sometimes it has serious effects where animals will extinct. The other thing, climate change